I grew up in Wales, grew up on a farm. I started racing motocross at the age of 6 years old, all the way up until about 19 years old. And then I started racing downhill mountain bike racing. So my body was in bits. Some of these people don't even really live that lifestyle year round. They do it because it's part of their job. So they're very professional. You know, maybe that it's not something that they want to do, but they do it because it's part of the movie, it's part of the scene. It's something that's going to be more authentic to the viewer. So they put their heart and soul into it. These are signals, so they're not like a synthetic overdrive. Like you think of testosterone or hormone replacement therapy, like growth hormone, that will actually shut down your body's own ability to produce, where these are signals for your body to produce, you know. But we know that kids learn by observation. If they observe these things, the chances of them applying them is going to be much more likely. And one of the guys that I published, his wife sent me a long voice note just saying how thankful she was, you know, which is great. But I focus more on my supplement line. You know, we just come out with a stem cell product, which has gained a lot of attention. We're going to be coming out with a meal replacement bar because there's no bars that I've been able to recommend to my clients.
What's up, everybody? This is Simon. On this episode of The Ideal Hour, I got Kris Gethin. Is that correct? How did I pronounce it?
You got it. Gethin.
All right. And Kris is the first person I'm on the podcast with that's walking, which I think is totally awesome. And, you know, he's a world-renowned transformation coach, an entrepreneur. You know, he's a former CEO and co-founder of 𝐒𝐢𝐬𝐲, editor-in-chief in bodybuilding.com. I mean, this guy's lost weight. He's taught other people how to do performance, weight loss, and getting him, you know, the best out of the person. Kris, thanks for coming on. And thanks for walking here. I wish I was walking as well.
Yeah, I got this treadmill desk here, which I absolutely love. This is as fast as it goes, by the way, but I can still type and multitask and do podcasts like this. So, you know, I definitely get the miles in by the end of the day.
I think it's awesome. Is there an incline feature on it too, or is it just straight? Okay.
It's just flat. It's got like a massive desk on it. It's called In Movement. I'm not sponsored by them, but I just picked this up probably about 8-10 years ago, and I love it.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, I usually, you know, I don't like running because of my knees, but I'll do like a 15 incline, 3 mile per hour walk for 20 minutes before the workout or whatever. And it actually works. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've got like a curved treadmill because, you know, you use a lot of your posterior chain to pull it towards you and you don't have so much compression on your knees or your hips or your spine. So I kind of like that. So any running that I do it on that or off-road.
I see. So you're saying that one curved one allows you, it's better on your knees. Plus you're kind of are you self-pulling in the running?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So it's not electric, you know, it's great because you can do a sprint and they go straight back to like a jog or a walk, like instantly. You don't have to multitask by pressing buttons or anything like that. And I'll wear like very soft cushion trainers like the Hoka Bondis or the Hoka Cliftons, and I don't have any knee issues.
I love the Hokas. They're just really comfortable. I do have one of them, and I should run with those. That's probably the problem. I've been using Under Armour.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's get into this. How did you get in your fitness journey? And I think that's a good start.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Wales, grew up on a farm. I started racing motocross at the age of 6 years old, all the way up until about 19 years old. And then I started racing downhill mountain bike racing. So my body was in bits by the time I finished all the extreme sports. And that was my identity for a while. And when I lost my identity, I kind of went off the rails because I didn't know, you know, a lot of my teenage years, I didn't go out, I didn't socialize much. So I just partied hard then for about 4 years. I was drinking, I was doing drugs because I'd kind of lost my way. But I was still dealing a lot with issues like my back injury. You know, I've got curvature of the spine, multi-directional disc bulges from things like motocross. And it wasn't until I actually saw a specialist and started doing physiotherapy, and that resistance training alleviated me of a lot of the pain that I was dealing with. And I thought, okay, I actually enjoy this. Now in retrospect, I was definitely dealing with some type of depression. So now I'm feeling better. And I started kind of looking into it a little bit more, the food to feed the training. So then I went to college for 3 years and studied international health and sports therapy. And that's kind of where it started from then. And I there was such a thing as like bodybuilding shows in
Mhm.
Wales. So I entered for my first bodybuilding show like a year and a half after picking up a weight. I got second in that show, even though it was an untested show. I had no idea there was such a thing as natural and unnatural
That is weird.
bodybuilding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I had no idea. So I competed in this show, and I remember people saying, like, what did you use to dry out? And I'm like, vitamin C and asparagus. I didn't know they were talking about diuretics or anything like that. But then I carried on down that route. I worked on cruise liners for a while, moved to Australia. I attended my first natural bodybuilding show, and I saw a guy called Mark Costanti guest pose in that show. And I was like, there's no way he's natural. Sometime later, I was training in the same gym and become his training partner and realized, wow, there's a large ceiling that I need to blow off the top of my head in order to take my physique to that next level and have a physique that people would deem as unnatural. You just have to do some unnatural things in the gym and just live a very, very dedicated life. And I really enjoyed that because that really put me on a straight and narrow. I've become so much more structured with that. My cognitive function was now improving. I was able to retain content, much not
Mm.
like I did in school. So that's kind of how I got hooked on it. And then I
Oh,
started, I was personal training when I was in Australia. I bought a gym. And then I wanted to reach out to more people, so I started writing for the magazines, and it kind of snowballed from there.
oh, that's excellent. Yeah, and it's amazing once your mind and body feel good, how much more you could do
Oh yeah,
with everything, right?
yeah, so much more energy. You have more enthusiasm. You feel better about the people that you're interacting with because you feel better. And when you feel this good, you just want to kind of open those doors for other people because there's so many people out there thinking that they're running in top gear, but they're not. They're still in second or third, but they don't realize what it's like to run with a finely tuned engine because they're not tuning it with the right food, with the right movement, getting the right light, etc.
And after you opened your gym and started taking this on a different level and building a business, I see you have a pretty large Instagram following now. How has that evolved or developed for you to take your training and coaching to the next level?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. I'm very cautious to use social platforms and not be used by them.
Mm.
Um, because I feel very lucky in this day and age that we can reach so many people internationally because I used to do that through magazines, but there is no way that you could engage with the reader, but now we can engage with it. So now, yeah, since opening that gym in Australia, now I've got a gym franchise in India of all places, but that
Wow.
wouldn't have happened hadn't it been, well, possibly social media, but definitely I released a book. Basically, I published a book through Simon and Schuster back in 2010, end of 2010, start of 2011. That got into the hands of like a big Bollywood celebrity. He
Mhm.
wanted transforming. I transformed him. That got mainstream media over there. And then I could see there was definitely a void for gyms and a good infrastructure. So started training personal trainers over there and then opened a load of gyms over India, and we kind of call them academies because it is a continuation of education. I'm flying in now at the end of the week on Saturday, and I'm going to do some more clinics and educate people over there. But a lot of that comes from the awareness that we get from social media. So now, obviously, I have a lot of people contact me. They want training, and that's all I do now: online training as opposed to in person.
Mhm.
Occasionally, very, very rarely, will I do it in person if a celeb needs to get in shape for a
Mhm.
video shoot or for a certain scene and they need a little bit more hands-on, but very, very rarely.
Is it fun working with some high profile people to train them? Are they usually receptive or are they not receptive?
No, they usually are. They usually are
Okay.
because weirdly enough, some of these people don't even really live that lifestyle year round. They do it because it's part of their job, so they're very
Mm.
professional. Maybe that it's not something that they want to do, but they do it because it's part of the movie. It's part of the scene. It's something that's going to be more authentic to the viewer, so they put their heart and soul into it.
I love that. It says here on you were an Ironman triathlete. Uh, do you still do that? Or, what was that all about?
Yeah, so I think it was back in 2017, because I've always enjoyed cardio. From doing extreme sports, I had to keep my weight low and do a lot of cardio. And I used to daydream a lot in school, apparently. That's all the school reports would say. So I'd use that daydreaming to my advantage doing cardio. So I could swim and look at the line at the bottom of a pool for 45 minutes. No worries.
Oh,
It's kind of
wow.
it's active meditation for me. And I really enjoy going out on my bike or my mountain bike and kind of switching off and disconnecting from the outside world, but reconnecting with myself. So I use that to my advantage. And I can't remember, somebody said to me, oh, you wouldn't be able to do Ironmans or anything like that. You're too big. And I thought, okay, I'm going to suck at this. Sign me up. Let's do it. So within 6 months of me starting and training for Ironmans, I'm still keeping my body weight about 220 pounds, still training like a bodybuilder, but kind of brought the frequency and the volume down from, say, 5 days a week down to 6 days a week, and a lot less volume in the workouts. But within, I think it was 6 weeks, I did an Olympic distance. 3 months, I did a half Ironman. And then 3 months after that, so 6 months after I started training for it, I did my full Ironman. And I've done several Ironmans since then. So I still do train like that. I'll do gym training. But of course, if I'm actually going to compete in an Ironman, then I'll increase the volume a little bit, more so on the bike, because you have to get used to doing a few centuries prior to the race.
It's so interesting. The bodybuilders typically get gassed out. I mean, it's just, I've seen it in big guys in gyms, and when they do like wrestling or they do some type of MMA training, etc., they tend to gas out. Why is that? Is that a common thing, or is it a lot of people just not training in cardio as much as they used to? I'm sure you're pushing it in your academies, but the typical gym bro guy.
Yeah, exactly what you said. Then just not training like that. If they did and they dedicated, because since I did, my first Ironman, I put out a video series on me preparing for that. A lot of people would come up to me at events or expos and say, check this out. This is my Ironman medal or whatever, half Ironman, even if it was like a 10K run, whatever, that they thought that they'd have to give up bodybuilding in order to participate in endurance sports. And it kind of opened the gateway a little bit, because if you look at CrossFitters, a lot of these CrossFitters, especially the pros, they're built, they're big guys, but they're exceptionally fit. Now, they're not born like that. They just train like that. So whatever you train towards, you can cross over and have a hybrid athlete, like athleticism. So you just got to train like that and kind of open up the opportunity, because a lot of bodybuilders, as you said, they are pretty much static ornaments. They think if they move, they're going to burn off all their calories. But I always found that some form of movement, like what I'm doing now, actually assists with my recovery, so I can train harder with more volume, because I'm shuttling the nutrients and the oxygen around my body into my muscles, so I'm able to recover that much faster. So I think they have a positive effect on each other. And of course, the most important muscle is your heart, and one of the longevity predictors is your VO2 max. So I think it's very important that we have a good cardiovascular engine. What's the point of looking good if you can't function and you're shortening your health span?
Absolutely. Your cylinders are not all firing if you don't have it. Now, what do you recommend a cardio training as a separate day, kind of like leg day, or are you saying cardio should be part of your daily training with whatever you do?
Yeah, so I do cardio every day.
Okay.
Every single day I do cardio. Now, I'll do a little bit of a sadistic route if I'm actually preparing for a long distance event, because I've done ultra marathons as well. So what I will do, for instance, I will do my leg workout first, and then immediately go for my run. So I'm running on extremely tired legs now. So come race day, it feels really fresh and really easy. So it's the same if I'm going for my swim, I'll go and smash back and triceps, and then I'll go for my swim immediately following. It's kind of like a brick workout, because I know this kind of pre-fatigued. So when I go for my swim, it's a lot more difficult. So those kind of bricks or supersets back to back can really help if you're trying to improve. And if you go out for that run or swim or bike fresh, from not doing that, you'll find it so much easier. So I like to do a lot of sprints and a lot of, I guess, convenient workouts, as opposed to just going long and slow all the time.
You know what? I love it. It sounds like you stress yourself during the training, um, so that when the event comes around, you're not. It almost feels not as stressed because you're not. You know, you didn't do a set of legs and you didn't do this, and now you're running. You're like, well, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah, like
you're more ready.
Tyson used to do the same thing when he was training, at his peak. He'd do 15 to 20 rounds, knowing that he only had to train for 12. Many of his fights didn't go past like 2 or 3
Yeah, yeah,
rounds,
yeah.
but he was training for the longer distance. But, he was a big guy. He was very muscular. So it can be quite easy for him to run out of gas as well, because the muscle requires so much more oxygen, the more muscle that you have, and more nutrients. So, when I'm doing a lot of this endurance stuff, I've pretty much got a backpack on because
Mm,
it's like a rolling buffet. I've just got to
mm,
keep getting food in. A lot of the time,
mm.
I'll have a very dense carb and protein shake as well, just for convenience. But it requires a lot of calories if you're a bit bigger.
Yeah, I think it's so important to fuel up. Let's talk about Tyson. I mean, I've seen videos of Tyson that is 60 years old knocking that bag and no problems. Then he fights Jake Paul. A lot of people were saying that he's kind of holding back on this guy. What are your thoughts? Did you ever see that fight?
Yeah,
And what do you think? Do you think he was holding back? It
I've
was
no idea. I
no
have
idea.
no idea. Who knows? Because yeah, all we're seeing is very, very short clips. But in those
Mm.
clips, he looks absolutely ferocious. Like
He did.
even to this day, talk about Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. None of those people are looking as durable or as powerful as he was in that training. So who knows? Like I remember just after the fight, not long after the fight, he's showing the new home he's bought, and he's bought a new home for his daughters and stuff like that. So maybe he did bite the bullet, knowing that he was going to get such a big payback.
It's very possible. I saw the fight, but again, who knows? You're right. He could also be 60 and couldn't do, the 8 rounds or whatever. All right, let's talk about. We talked a little bit about protein and carbs. You mentioned protein and carb shakes are essential to a longer endurance and a gradual endurance workout. Um, I have a question personally. I tend to do a 20-minute nonstop workout for myself. Is 20 minutes just not enough every day, or do you think it's decent enough to have and obviously just to have to be in shape, not to have the body of Arnold, just to be in shape.
Yeah, so it's probably going to help you maintain, but it all depends the intensity of that workout as well. So, for instance, I've got something called a Carol bike. It's an AI bike that calibrates to you after a while. The longest workout I can do on that bike is 20 minutes. It's called, you've heard of HIIT training, it's called re-HIIT training. So that is phenomenal conditioning for me, but not necessarily
Mm,
for muscle. Maybe I'm going to maintain with 20 minutes, like you said, very intense, short rest periods. Maybe it's a circuit style, but you're not going to progress
yeah.
at 20 minutes. It'd be highly unlikely, let's say that. And obviously, the older we get, the more difficult it'll be to progress, because our protein synthesis is going to be lessened. And you have to create a traumatic experience
Mm,
for the body's signal to go, okay, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I need to be more prepared. I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to have more muscle density. I'm going to be fitter. So you have to create that traumatic time in the gym, which 45 minutes, you're going to get a phenomenal, I'd say probably double that. If you went 20 to 40, you'd have more than enough to progress.
to get that traumatic experience. That's interesting. I got to do that. All right, let's talk about stem cells. This has been a key to recovery. It's been talked about on podcasts. Obviously, some stem cells you can't do in America. I believe the treatments themselves, you got to go to Mexico, et cetera. What's your thoughts on it, and have you seen it work?
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. I've actually got a client in CPI in Mexico at the moment. There, you have to go to places like Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico to get the efficacy that you can't get here in the US. No matter how many doctors will tell you it's just as good here in the US, it's not. It's not.
Wow.
They can't legally expand or harvest those stem cells over a couple of weeks. You can't do that here, but it can be. I'm not saying it is, but it can be life changing. It certainly has been for me. I had stem cells for the first time And I did peptides for the first time in 2017 to help with healing. And it's absolutely been phenomenal. I just went in January to have my spine done because, like I said, I've got curvature of the spine, multi-directional discs. If I'm moving, I feel great. If I'm stuck in one position for a long time, like on a plane, it can be pretty darn painful. So stem cells can really, really help with that, helps with the regeneration. So as we get a little bit older, of course, our stem cells decline, much like clotho or NAD or glutathione. It becomes lesser and lesser as we get older. So our immune system becomes more compromised. Our ability to recover is compromised. You think about a baby, they bruise themselves, or a toddler, I should say, and then a couple of days later, that bruise is gone, they're fine. As we get older, we become more frail and our body's ability to recover is lessened. One of the reasons is because we don't have enough stem cells. So actually having those stem cells put into acute areas of concern is phenomenal. I will always have an IV of stem cells every year to help with, overall inflammation, help with my kidneys, my liver, my pineal gland, my lungs, my heart, etc. So I think it can be absolutely phenomenal. I had a client's mother who was 80 years old get stem cells about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now. She went in a wheelchair. Within, I think it was about 8 or 9 months, she is a member of one of my gyms in Delhi, actually going in there now, moving. And she went back and had another bout of stem cells because it helped her so much.
Wow, that's amazing. And when you got yours done, did you do Costa Rica, Mexico? What's your preferred place?
CPI. I wouldn't say the biggest. Maybe they are. I don't know. They're the official sponsors of the UFC. I know Scotty, who owns it, along with Ed Clay, and they're just very, very high-end people. The clinic that they've got is unbelievable. Now they've just opened a TAM cancer center, the top 2 floors. I believe they have 20 PhDs and 36 doctors there. It's absolutely unbelievable what they've got there.
Phenomenal. And it's amazing why the US is so restrictive on it. You would think these companies would want to heal somebody, but it seems like they just want you to disguise what's wrong, by buying.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that a lot of people that are have these clinics in these other countries are all owned by Americans, and they still live in America. Like Ed lives in Nashville, Scotty lives in Vegas, but they spend the majority of their time there at the clinic in Tijuana.
Yeah, it's I've heard great things about it. Let's talk about, Kris, let's talk about peptides. I mean, this is being brought up to me by so many people, especially since I moved to South Florida. A lot of the New Yorkers and the stronger Italian guys, they love this peptide talk. What are your thoughts? How is it? What's a good, safe way to enter it? And is it, comparable to stem cells or an alternative? I'd like to know your opinion.
Yeah, it's more so an alternative. So these are signals. So they're not like a synthetic overdrive. Like you think of testosterone or hormone replacement therapy, like growth hormone, that will actually shut down your body's own ability to produce, where these are signals for your body to produce. So you'd have, for instance, growth hormone secretagogues that allows your body to produce more of its own growth hormone. As you get a little bit older, that becomes lessened. The pulsatity is less frequent. The depth of that pulse is lessened. So it can actually help with that. You've got bioregulator peptides, which are shorter chains of amino acids, let's say for your retina to help with eyesight, for your pineal gland to help with sleep. You've got epitalon, for instance, that will help prevent the shortening of your telomeres, meaning you can actually slow down your biological aging. Like we're always going to age chronologically, but we want to reduce ourselves biologically. So I think they can be phenomenal in the right hands, but it's the education is where we're missing, but you have to be careful because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. So I've created my own platform, a website that is gated where people come in, where I've got all my content and I've got video presentations and courses and a community where I can answer questions, because on public domain I can't do that. Which is rightfully so, because there's a lot of people out there giving the wrong information. But I started, it's terrible. And as it becomes more prevalent, because the peptides have been around for years, insulin insulin, for instance, since the 1920s. That's a peptide. But a lot of these peptides had been used in Russia for many, many years with the Olympic teams and stuff. But all of the research and the content was all in Russian. And it's only over the past 10 years that content has actually been translated into English. So now more and more people are seeing it. China have obviously seen there's a lot of money to be made on it, so they've made it very accessible. But unfortunately, a lot of those peptides are contaminated. They're not meeting spec. They've got endotoxins. So, it's getting worse. You have to be very, very wary of where you get it from. I was actually testing a lot of these companies every batch before suggesting it. I was part of a syndicate, so it wasn't just me spending the money, but people that I trusted. And in the end, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I will just start my own peptide company and suggest when needed.
Yeah. So if someone wants to, let's say, start peptides, obviously you have your own company, but there's also others out there, and they are worried about injecting themselves with something that China just wants to push through that is not regulated. And I've done business with China before, as well. You don't know, each batch is a different story.
Exactly.
And I'm sure when you tested, you've realized that as well. And you're like, oh no. What do you recommend someone does? They sign up, they go to their doctor, they do their, blood test.
Yeah, so sometimes doctors will actually help and prescribe. Sometimes they won't, because the restrictions that US have actually put on doctors now and physicians. So yeah, that would be one route to go, but make sure that that company is manufactured in the US. So you have the COAs and endotoxins and all the third-party tests. So it should be 2 third-party tests that you have all those, should it either be on their website or you request from them, because the COAs that you get from China can be very, very different by the time they come here to the US, and some of these COAs are being forged now, unfortunately. So, it can be difficult. But if people are worried about injecting themselves, okay, that's absolutely normal. Do know it is just an insulin needle, but you do have orals, especially bioregulators, which are short chains of amino acids that are very bioavailable, So I had one for my cartilage. I knocked out a big chunk of my cartilage snowboarding a couple of years ago. Worked phenomenal for me. Stem cells wouldn't work there. I was speaking to a doctor, actually a surgeon in New York, that does 3D printing of cartilage. And she worked on this Olympic skier that I know that had a successful surgery, but I wasn't a candidate because of the articulate joint. So I thought, okay, last resort, let me go for this bioregulator peptide. 4 weeks later, it worked,
Wow. That quick.
Yeah, really quick. Yeah, I was blown away. I was completely blown away, surprised that it would work that well, that quick, for being an oral as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, because it's not going straight to the blood. Let me ask you another question. Do you have a peptide regimen now where you're continuously doing it?
Yeah, so I will cycle between them. So for instance, I'm about to go overseas now. I've got my little pens packed to go into my little flask refrigerator, and I will be doing peptides, mostly a mitochondrial uncoupler to help with the mitochondrial membrane. That's actually going to help my body assimilate light, nutrients, hydration, micronutrients to be used as energy. I've got my epitalon and pinealon, so that's actually help reset my circadian rhythm. So some people, they try to sleep at night, they take melatonin, they take a load of supplements, they wear the blue light blocking glasses, but they just cannot switch off their brains. A lot of it is because their pineal gland need to be reset and needs to keep because these people are spinning, but they've got the brake on at the same time, and it's just kind of counterbalancing between each other. Knowing that I'm going to be going to different time zones, okay, I'll probably have to reset my circadian rhythm. And the other thing that I'll have with me is called TA1, thymosin alpha 1. So that helps with T cell immunity. So if I feel like I'm going to come down with a sickness, I will use that straight away, because it'll help knock me out of that sickness pretty much immediately, or within 48 hours. Because when I'm going overseas now, I'm going to be doing seminars or appearances pretty much every day. I really won't have the time to be sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's India too. So in India, you have to have a special stomach and special immunity.
Yeah, I've been pretty good so far, touch wood, with the food. I stick to the very basics. I don't explore and experiment with all the Indian foods. I'm quite a boring eater, thankfully.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the boring eater it's just survives probably a lot
Yeah.
easier. And I used to travel, I used to travel to China 6 times a year, and I would have to go out with all the people that were investing in the company and so forth. And it was grueling to on the stomach and just getting sick, you're not used to it. So
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people because I've never been to China, but I've heard the things that you kind of have to eat or you're exposed to when you go out on these dinners, and yeah, it doesn't sound too appealing.
well, just for the audience, I didn't eat a dog, even though it was on the menu.
You just ate the monkey this
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
though. Yeah,
the monkeys and the feet, whatever
yeah,
feet they. All right, let's talk about entrepreneurship. How hard is it to be a successful fitness coach nowadays? I mean, there's so many out there, and like you said, they all come on. Anyone has a camera, even an iPad is your, or a phone is your limelight with some one light off Amazon, and all of a sudden you become a professional at all this. I'm sure you see it every day.
yeah. Of course, it's definitely saturated, but some of these people are not personal trainers; they're just influencers. Which if as long as they know what they're doing, that's okay. But I guess because I've got so many different businesses in the space, I've got I've got my supplement companies, I've got Unmatched, I've got the peptide company, I've got the gym franchise, I write books, I've got podcasts. They all kind of cross pollinate each other. I do a lot of events, like I was at Dave Asprey's Beyond Biohacking
Mhm.
event last week. So I'm speaking at a lot of biohacking events. So they kind of all cross pollinate, even though I'm not going out there always marketing my one-on-one coaching. It's either come from referrals or from me just being out there speaking about various things and people reaching out to me, and now they find out that I do coaching. So
Mm.
that's kind of been more the appeal, I guess. And I don't allow anyone to sign up for less than 12 months. Because
Wow.
I
Okay.
feel it takes, of course, you can go through a transformation in a much shorter time, but in order for those people now to create those neural networks to have new habits, it's generally harder than what it used to be because people are so distracted now. They have less attention span. So it generally takes a lot longer for them to understand and have those neural pathways go, okay, this is a new you. These are the new habits that you need to employ, whether you're traveling, whether you get asked to go out to a barbecue, whether you're at a birthday, that motivation has now turned into discipline and their new habitual behavior, which usually takes about 12 months.
That's probably a smart, first of all, smart business decision. You want some type of commitment if you're going to spend time on them. Also, it gives you time to really adjust, your formula for your client. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I think you get away from the New Year gym resolution kind of thing, which is so common, right? How
And,
do
and,
you?
and you have so much more quantification now because you're doing blood work. You could be doing biological age testing. You're looking at people's HRV, blood sugar levels. That takes time to really manipulate. Sometimes it's trial and error with certain clients, dependent on their schedule, their family life, their lifestyle. So it takes a time, to kind of look at all that. I had a client send me through a lot of paperwork the other day, and I probably had like 10 attachments, and one of those attachments was like 74 pages long of all the different quantification measures. They had their saliva, their stool, their bloods, their hair follicle tests. There's a lot to go through now. So
Mhm.
over time, if you want to see changes, it's not going to be done in 3 months. It's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
time. Yeah.
It seems like it's gotten very biological as well. Before it was like, hey, let me get you in the gym, have you bench press and lift and run and this, and I'm gonna get you fit. Now it's getting more advanced, almost like analytics in the UFC and the NBA or whatever. They know each player and they know exactly the spot that works and they adjust. How do you, Chris? I mean, this is a lot of companies to run. How do you manage all that and still give attention where needed, whether it's for your client or a business within a time frame of, let's say, a 12-hour workday? It
Yeah.
sounds like you got.
Yeah, it's all about just being very, very efficient, and being proactive. So I don't wake up with my phone in the morning. I'm proactive. I may be outside stretching, doing a mobility work in my sauna, doing some movements, exercises. That is my proactive time to kind of coordinate everything for the day. I think if you start the day reactive and spend too much time on the phone, there's so many different drugs on there. You know, you've got the emails, you've got the socials, you've got the Amazon, you've got distraction. Then it can kind of screw you over. And I just think a lot of people just aren't efficient with their time. And that's why they're not able to juggle a lot of things. Like I'll have a limit on my, online training, for instance. If I feel, okay, I'm going to stretch it now, that's it. I'm not taking on any more clients because I just don't want to dilute the service that I'm providing because, yeah, it may be great for me short term, possibly, but long term, it's not going to be good. You know, the client's not going to get the results. That's going to reflect badly on me. They're not going to have a good experience. So I think it's very important that you don't overstretch yourself. I say that, but I do it every now and again. You know, when I launched this peptide company, it was a little bit overwhelming at that time because things were going wrong that you can't expect. Sure. And, sometimes you have to expect the unexpected to be fully prepared. But, I've in, my supplement company, Unmatched, I've got a great team there that's a lot smarter than me, and they take over a lot of those things, helping with the launches. Like we've launched 5 products this year. So there's a lot of things that's moving, but some people are really good at just focusing on one thing and putting it all into that. I can't. I get a little bit bored. So I like to start on this, move on to this, move on to this, repeat.
So as someone that's had several businesses, I totally relate. Let me ask you, do you ever feel when you start another business that maybe the other one starts getting put kind of in the back room, so to speak? So you're not as focused on maybe on the other one. And now you're like, why did I start this new one? And now, I'm diluting myself a little bit. And I know this goes back to your efficiency, but I've had a business where I started and it's going great. I mean, it's making good money. And then something else comes up. And then my focus shifts to that business. And then this business that was doing great starts to dwindle a little bit. How do you counter that? Have you experienced that? Or is it about just having the team and moving on?
No, I've experienced it, and I experienced it very recently because, I launched a company, but I was actually filming, and I just finished on Sunday filming another daily video trainer. So occasionally I'll film a video trainer of me preparing for like an Ironman or for guest posing at a bodybuilding show. So I just finished filming a home core daily video trainer. So it's me after I had the stem cells, had to take some time away from the training, how to put on a lot of size training from home. So I just filmed. So that's where I felt, okay, I diluted myself a little bit more. Could I have filmed a little bit more content, especially on the non-training days? Because that's when the viewer really needs that accountability. And that's what they find really interesting as opposed to another set of bench press. I probably could have I definitely could have put a lot more effort in there hadn't I spread myself too thin, so things like that kind of get to me a little bit because I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to film that. I need to film this, but you're so focused on the work you forget about the filming. So
you forget about the consistency that's required of the filming. Let me ask you, are you hard on yourself when that happens, or are you like, how do you move on from that?
Because it's tough. I would like to say I'm not hard on myself, but I'm really hard on myself, because I remember when I was actually doing that, I'm like, God, would I pay to watch this video series? Probably not. That's kind of what's going through my head. Even though I know there's value to it, I want to put much more value. So in video series in the past, I've had a videographer there, so I don't even have to think about it. A director, they'll prompt you, do this, do that. When I'm in it myself, because I thought, okay, this is a home core video trainer. It needs to be a little bit more ghetto, and I should film it as well. It was just too much. It was too much.
Yeah. Now you're dealing with a variable of cameras, editing, and all this other stuff, and it's sometimes not worth it. But I have a good video guy for you that did all these. He's done some work with coaches in the past, and he's some of them are very popular as well. So I don't know where you reside or where he is, but I'll figure it out. Okay, so I agree. You can't dilute yourself too much. You have to hire someone to help you be the best you can be, so you can put out the best product. I think that's what's out there. And sometimes when you do either it's a cost savings or you want to make it kind of grungy and realistic, it still does not equate to the reality of the experience.
Yeah, you just got to focus on your strengths, right? That's
Yeah.
not my strength.
Yeah.
I was just trying to fill in a gap, but I realize in hindsight that's not my strength, and I need to just focus on what I'm good at, and that's it. Like for instance, I use a food prep company now
Mhm.
because the chef is way better than I am. They're going to spend more time in the kitchen creating a variety of recipes for the people that they sell to. Okay, that's their strength. Am I going to save a lot of money doing it myself? Sure, but I'm probably actually going to save a lot of money using the food prep company because now I can focus on the things that I'm good at that's going to give more ROI.
And get exactly. So you're focusing on making money, which will cover the cost of this
Yeah,
food prep company many times over versus
yeah,
drilling yourself down. And I think that for an entrepreneur, that's probably the biggest thing to learn. I think as entrepreneurs, we're do it yourself. I can get it done. I can get all these things done. And then we add on, add on, add on. And then life hits you. You got the emails, you got the social medias, you got the calls, you got your family to deal with, etc. And then, you just tackle more on and you start diluting and then you become not as effective in certain things that you are good at. And I think that the viewer should realize that at a certain point, you just have to let the people that are better than you do what they need to do and just focus on what you do great. Um, Typical coaching sessions. What do you charge? Like, what is a good? I know the celebrities may pay more, they may be more demanding, but what is a typical rough ballpark out there for a 12-month transformation?
yeah. So if, for instance, a celebrity is
Mm,
going to hire me, yes, it is a lot more because they want me on location. So,
mm,
how many businesses I have. So I'm having to pretty much put a lot of that on hold while I'm with that person on location because you're there at the shoot, and sometimes those shoots are delayed and sometimes it's by an hour, then another hour, then that, and you're just in a holding pattern. So
mm.
that is a lot more expensive. Now, I have two types of training and coaching. One is just online via the app, and they have once a week check-in. I look at their photos, they give me their check-in, and I make the decision whether I need to change that plan on that week or keep it the same if they're still progressing at the speed that we want to, blah, blah, blah. That is email and app communication. So something like that is like $7,000 for the year. But
Okay.
if they now want my number and they want me to communicate via WhatsApp and they can communicate with me as many times as they want, let's say if they're
Um,
going into a restaurant and they're saying, hey, I've got this on the menu. What can I eat? I'll respond and say blah, blah, blah. And they usually check in with me every single day where they
oh,
have
wow.
to, because I want that accountability, especially
Mm.
in the beginning, what time they went to bed, what time they woke up, what time their meals were, how much was in that meal, how much fluid they drank, blah, blah, blah. And in that VIP Plus coaching program, they have blood analysis, they have biological age test and analysis, they have DNA, etc. So it's a little bit more complex. That is going to be $26,000 for the 12 months. And some people do that for the 12 months. Some people, I've had clients that do it every year for the past like 6, 7 years because
Wow.
they just don't want the decision making fatigue. They want to be told what to do and when to do it. And I totally get that. Some of these people are very busy and they have families and they just want to be told what to do. And sometimes their goals change. One time it's performance. Now they're getting ready for a high rocks. Now they want to put on muscle. Now they just want to get in shape after they've had the baby. So a lot of it changes.
And they could see the success, and if it works, why also stop or change into something else? I think as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, analytics, bio is coming really into it, and it's creating the better person. So that makes sense. I mean, if you're a millionaire or if you make good money, $20,000, 26 in this case, to feel great and know your body in and out every year is nothing. You could lease a Range Rover and arrive feeling like shit, or you could be the Range Rover. I guess that's a good way to put it. So that's
Yeah, and
pretty
a
cool.
lot and a lot of these people, they, have so much more energy and confidence after a while that it actually helps with their businesses or business relationships. And, I'll always push them to do things that usually makes them feel uncomfortable. So I just published a couple of pictures of two of my clients now about 3 days ago on my Instagram, and these people would have never ever considered having a photo shoot. Way too embarrassed and still shy, I guess. And I really encourage them because of their family, their fathers. I'm like, your kids will love this. As you get older, I tell you right now, you will regret it. You may feel really uncomfortable right now, but you will regret it because you're in phenomenal shape. And look where you came from. They had the photo shoots done and they feel awesome now. So it kind of just opens a new alleyway to what of their possibilities. So we're always trying to lift that ceiling up a little bit further and further.
I think that, and it's great for their family to see that, or their sons or daughters, that dad takes care of themselves. So you should too. When I'm of age where you're the next man in the house, so to speak. I think it's important because a lot of dad bods. I think Hollywood kind of made dad bods
a thing.
Cool. Yeah, it's like they made it a cool thing, and the editorials. You were an editorial writer before. Highlighted, and they glamorized it and this and that, and you basically made the men lazy.
Anything polarizing works, doesn't it? But we know that kids learn by observation. If they observe these things, the chances of them applying them is going to be much more likely. And one of the guys that I published, his wife sent me a long voice note just saying how thankful she was, which is great.
You improved their marriage. This is good. All right. So what's next for Kris in the next few years? What are some goals you think you would like to achieve yourself personally and professionally?
Okay, well, we mentioned about, not spreading myself too thin. So I'm actually not going to be taking on any new VIP plus clients after this year. Oh, wow. Because, I'm always... I guess accessible, which is fine. And I want to be accessible to my clients. If I'm on holiday, I'm working several hours in the morning, I want to be accessible and I want to help them because a lot of these people really, really do hang on to that accountability and that guidance. So I have given a lot of myself over the past 30 odd years. So I'm going to pull back a little bit on that. I'm going to focus more on my supplement line. We've just come out with a stem cell product, which has gained a lot of attention. We're going to be coming out with a meal replacement bar because there's no bars that I've been able to recommend to my clients. In October, we're working on a non-caffeinated energy drink. Of course, all of our products are naturally sweetened. So there's going to be an evolution. We've probably got about 12 products that we want to be releasing over the next 12, maybe 16 months, even a coffee. So there's got to be a lot of work there. And with the peptides, we're going to be expanding different, I guess, delivery mechanisms, whether they be topicals, nasals, orals, stuff like that. And I want to travel a little bit more. I travel a lot. But it's usually because
the work.
Yeah, it's because of the work. People say, "What was that place like? What was that city like? What was that country like?"
Yeah.
I just saw a gym and a hotel, and that was it.
You go to the hotel, you go to the gym, you go to your show meeting or boardroom, and trade show, and then you're so tired by the end of the whole thing, meeting 100 people, that you just want to go back to the hotel.
Exactly.
And if you're lucky, you'll get one day of sightseeing again, before you head back. Where would you travel to if you could, travel anywhere in the world and take a nice vacation?
I'd like to go to Vietnam. I'd like to go to Egypt. I'd like to go to Bali. Never been to those places. I'd love to go back to Australia because a couple of my best friends are there, and my wife has never been there. So I've rented a camper a couple of times, and I've gone up the west coast there, or the east coast, sorry, and I've gone through the center of Australia, and I absolutely loved it. And I really like the people there, so I'd like to go back there as well. But there's a laundry list of places, I guess, that I'd like to go.
And does your wife, does she push you to travel as well, or does she ever give you a hard time with your traveling schedule? Because with so many companies, there's so much demand on you being available, and with the clients as well. Like, how do you balance that marriage work life? I mean,
No, I've never had any pressure, you know. No, it's if anything, it's me because she's like 14 years younger than me.
oh, good.
So I'm kind
You're
of
winning.
yeah, that's my number one biohack to reducing your biological age.
That's a peptide. That's right
Yeah,
there.
if you could bottle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so of course, you know, I'm thinking of slowing things down, but she's, you know, she's still
Probably keeping you going.
yeah, exactly. And she likes to travel. She's traveled a lot before she met me, and you know, she studied overseas in Africa or South Africa and in Florence. So you know, I'd love to go back to South Africa and Africa again.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I love that.
Yeah, my wife really wants to go to South Africa. She says, or Africa, she would love to visit. We haven't had that opportunity. One place that came to mind is Thailand. I don't know if you've ever been,
Yeah,
but
I've been
it's
there a
really
few
fun.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very nice.
yeah,
Do
I've
you
been there a
like
few
it?
times. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I went there about a year and a half ago as well.
Oh, nice. Oh, so it's very recent. What
Yeah.
about Japan? Have you been to Japan, Kris?
I went there very, very briefly. So
Okay.
there was a friend of mine who's like a celebrity photographer in Hollywood, Peter Svensson, and he's sponsored by Hasselblad and Phase One backs for Hasselblad. And he was asked to do some courses over there. So we were there for about 2 weeks, and we were like 2 days in each place, and Japan was one of them. So I was there for like 2 days, and that was mostly working. We had a little bit of entertaining in the evening. That was it.
All right, all right. Well, maybe you'll go back and enjoy. Hopefully, you do sound like a hardworking man. Before we go, if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would that be and why?
Patience. Have a little bit more patience. You know, be a little bit easier on yourself. You know, as we was mentioning, I was a little bit hard on myself. You know, going through this video series, so I tend to come down on myself a little bit difficult. Probably ease up a little bit. I remember a friend of mine not so long ago. She's a yoga instructor here, and she said, "Nature gets everything done in time." And I thought, okay, I need to kind of live by that because I'm like, it's not going to get done in time.
Yeah.
Nature does, so why can't we? It just happens. Just let it happen.
I love that. Let it happen. Control what you can, but just let things flow. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kris. We're going to link all of your information below. Very nice interview and podcast. I appreciate your time. And of course, you got a lot of projects. I look forward to seeing some of them out there. And I'm going to check out your videos as well personally, especially the training ones. So I think now my mindset, even with this podcast, is incorporate more cardio into my workouts, more assault bike type workouts, and more just cardio in general, because I think that's the key to really maintaining yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'd always suggest to people, go and get your VO2 max tested and see if you can improve upon it in, say, 3 months' time. Because when you've got that sense of urgency or a goal marker to work towards, the chances of you pushing it with consistency is going to be more likely.
I will do that. I will do that. Kris, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it too, brother.